In 1968, Stephen Gilbert published Ratman's Notebooks about a misfit who relates more to rats than he does to humans. 3 years later, an adaptation was released entitled Willard, which was a good adaptation of the novel despite changing some things in the ending. Despite mixed reviews, it was a big hit, spawning a sequel entitled Ben, which also received mixed reviews and was not as big a box office return. However, it did become famous more so because of the song of the same name recorded by Michael Jackson for the film, which won a Golden Globe for Best Original Song and was even nominated for an Oscar. Over 30 years later, another adaptation was commissioned. The producers refused to call it a remake because they stated it was more of a reworking of the original's themes and more of a focus on suspense. Yeah, it's a fucking remake. Let's just get into it. The original film, despite a good performance by a young unknown Bruce Davison and a semi intriguing plot, didn't really grab me all that much. I don't know what it was, but it wasn't like slow moving or anything like that. I just felt that for what it wasn't incredibly interesting. However, the remake improves upon the original in many areas. While Davison did give a good performance, I never felt that he was a misfit or an outcast. It felt more like a normal guy trying to be an outcast. Here, the producers just said, fuck it, let's cast a guy who looks like the subject of kids' nightmares and the most awkward person on the planet. With that, Crispin Glover gives a much more interesting and a bit more of a layered performance. There was more of an arc, more of a degeneration to the dark side, and his actions are much clearer in this version. His relationship with Ben is a lot darker and more abusive than in the original film. The film, I definitely do admit, is a lot darker than the original film as a whole. It isn't like edgy or anything like that. It has a darker tone, and because of that, the drama and suspense was a lot better and actually grabbed me this time around. However, one of the things that I felt was slightly better in the original film was the romance. I felt like it was slightly better written and a bit more believable. The romance here was fine, and Laura Elena Herring did a good job, but I felt they were more platonic friends than a couple. I'm not sure if that was the intent, but that's what I felt was going on. As producers stated that this was more of a focus on suspense, they more than delivered. It was a lot creepier than the original film, and more of a focus on the mental illness of Willard. You feel bad for him more so in the remake than in the original because I feel the torment from his mother and his boss is a lot worse than in the original. It certainly does help that his boss is played by Arlie Ermy, who is well known for spewing the most despicable insults due to his role in Full Metal Jacket. I felt that this was just a more interesting version of the original film. It knew what to focus on to make it better, and it worked. It toned up the horror and suspense, the acting from Glover was much better, the writing was better, and overall a much more interesting film. I also like the different ending to the original film. I recommend both, but I feel that the remake is definitely superior.